I'm a doctor of Indian origin. I was born in the UK.
Right.
And I work with many people from the subcontinent who really prop up the NHS. One thing I wanted to expand on was just what your previous caller was saying about healthcare. I think there have been a few callers who have made comments. I think one of them said that, people are going to come and get teeth-to-toe healthcare and then just go back to India. Another lady who was just on said, people aren't going to be paying into the NHS. But as your previous caller said...
There's the NHS surcharge.
There is the NHS surcharge. And actually, we need to decouple this debate from immigration. As the Trade Secretary said, this isn't an immigration deal. The people who come over to the UK will still need to fulfill the same criteria that they do already. And there are already immigration controls in place. So it's not like we are, like Nigel Farage said, allowing free movement into this country. We're allowing the movement of skilled workers. And yes, we are incentivizing them. And I do hear, what the businessman previously said. I don't profess to be an expert on national insurance and economics, but I do think there are undertones of racism here. I mean, from hearing what the other caller said about the teeth-to-toe healthcare, I was, absolutely incensed. I think that's a really ignorant thing to say.
Right.
And obviously the people who are... Sorry, yeah.
Do you not think there would be... Let's just choose at random a country. I don't know, Australia. Do you not think there would be a sense that Australians coming in and not having to pay NI, again, there would be the same level of anger, Jonathan?
I don't think there would be.
Okay.
I don't think there would be. I mean, people...
This is down to skin colour in your view, is it?
I do think so. I think there's a lot of misinformation. People are having very strong opinions without necessarily knowing the facts. I mean, the chap who said the teeth-to-toe healthcare said there's no healthcare system in India. I mean, actually, the Indian healthcare system is brilliant, and the people who are coming over... who are skilled would have health insurance and access to way better healthcare in some cases in India than they would in the UK. So I do think we need to...
Well, lastly then, how do you react when Nigel Farage tells us I think he said something like 500,000 Indians have settled here, most of whom are not in work, is what Mr Farage has told us. Jonathan?
I would like to see the evidence that most of them are not in work, because as a person of Indian origin myself, I most certainly am in work. I know many people who have come over from India who aren't necessarily born in the UK like myself, who are working incredibly hard. And unfortunately, if the British population don't want to do certain jobs and we need to import labour, then there's a bigger problem that we need to address.
I think it's a little bit unnecessary. Say if someone's going to come over here temporarily to come, I don't know, pick some fruit or something like that, I don't think this level of language is really necessary. But I do think that if you're going to get a citizenship, then I do think you need to be able to speak a certain level of English. Yeah, I do. I think that's rational.
I do too. But I think the citizenship test already includes that, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does. So I don't have an issue with that, right? But I also want to say, is that I despise reform.
Of course.
But the reality, the reality of it is this: is that I don't want Farage as my next prime minister. There has to be a way to take the wind out of his sails, and I think I have to accept things have to get a little bit dirty to do that.
I think I agree with all of that. I just don't know that this will work. And that's why I'm fascinated. I can tell, I don't know whether you notice, but sometimes I stumble across something and I can feel myself thinking, God, we're going to be coming back to this again and again and again and again. How do you tell the difference between legitimate concerns and a red meat munching racist? And if you've got legitimate concerns about immigration levels or integration, is this going to really change your mind? Are you really likely to go, do you know what, I don't think I'll vote for him, the Vladimir Putin fanboy. I think I'll vote for Keir Starmer instead, because now people coming here from overseas have to pass a harder English exam than they had to pass before.
Probably not, and probably not if I think about it. And the reason why is because at the end of the day, we're now in the age of fragmented reality. Yes. People are getting totally different things on their feeds. So I don't really think that rationality, logic, or facts is really what you beat people over. It's over dominating their algorithm. That's genuinely, I think, how democracy is really compromised. That's my belief.
No, well, I mean, there's stories around today that would absolutely enforce your position, particularly about the influence and that Russia has sought to secure over French politics and French political discourse. I think we had our early taste of that in 2015, 2016, which an earlier caller referred to, and Boris Johnson, of course, refused to properly investigate. But that's the killer question, isn't it? Who sees this front page today? I don't, and again, I think you're right about having to take wind out of sails. So, people can carry on saying you think everybody's racist and stuff like that. It's not true. You've got somebody with a genuine sense of discomfort at the thought of people coming here who don't speak English, if they exist. Will this make them feel less discomfort? Will anybody see the front page of the Times today or turn on LBC and listen to this and go, oh, that's good, I'm glad about that. I think I'll change my views. I think I'll change my intentions politically. I just can't quite imagine that person, Alexander.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think maybe they exist, but I don't think they're numerically significant.
Yeah, and that makes it such an odd thing for a government to be dedicating time to, albeit that it's only part of an entire white paper on immigration. It is 25 minutes after 11. And, of course, lots of people will make the point that there is an army of immigrants, although I think we're supposed to call them expats, in places like Spain, who cannot speak Spanish. You know, there are entire enclaves in the UK of people who cannot speak Spanish. Johnny's not one of them. He's in France, where he tells me they've tightened up language requirements from B1 to B2 here in France too. My French, he writes, is good enough for everyday needs, but B2 is out of my reach, so I'm probably denied citizenship, though I'd love to be a full member of society. I guess if we've got someone, I had that early texter, who is really well qualified to tell us what the difference will be from where the standard is now to a so-called B2, which would be a bit like a foreign language. It would be a bit like a foreign language A-level. So you can't get an A-level in French without being able to speak French quite well. Ditto German, not so much Latin, but generally speaking, is that a realistic level? I mean, how many people who've been through our education system in this country could pass English as a foreign language at A-level?
Good morning. It's an absolute woohoo for me.
Tell me why. Well done. Good. I like your celebrations.
I'm going to be honest, Nick. Some mornings I do actually get a bit cross with you because I think, please don't bosh, give him a chance. And I know it's been 10 months. But anyway, I just thought, wow, have we had some mood hoovers on this morning? Why can't we just say, this is a glimmer, it's a start.
Totally agree.
To see Keir talking, and it was Donald and Keir, he was a statesman, to see him on a conference call. I just think, do you know what, this is just, even if it's just a tiny glimmer, I think it's a bit more than that. Let's just give him a chance and see where it goes. It's just such a negative time at the minute. And yesterday, I cried through most of the V-Day stuff, to be honest.
Right.
It was just such a historical day. And to see that happen as well, wow, you know?
To those who say this is not the future, we should be, I would say, looking back and going back and getting in bed with the European Union, how would you respond?
What's the alternative? And nobody seems to be able to say, OK, we think it's a bad deal, we shouldn't be doing this, but we should be doing X, Y and Z. Kemi, I'm really sorry. I agree with that lovely gentleman, the entrepreneur, John, I've forgotten his surname.
John Caldwell.
That's the guy, yeah. Super chap. I agree with him, and I think she just needs to get over herself. If she hasn't got anything to say, can't she just say, yeah, OK, well done, we'll see where it goes.
Lastly, I phrased it or characterised it as opposing it for opposition's sake, as in she's the leader. And I think it demeans the opposition to always oppose things, whether in fact they, as you rightly identify, there's a glimmer of something here.
It is. And why can't we? Do you know what I'd love to see? Is less, I mean, I love PMQs. It's my favourite time of the week. But I'd love to see just a little bit more positivity. And yes, OK, they're on opposite sides of the scale. And, I only ever started to get involved in politics when lockdown was on. And I wish I'd been a lot more interested, a lot sooner. But there you go. But why can't they just support each other sometimes?
I think it's in their DNA, and I do think the Conservatives finished this week looking, actually they're rather diminished in just continual opposition. Thanks, Yvonne. Lovely to hear the bounce in your voice, and don't worry that you've come a little bit late to politics. It's a never, ever ending, unravelling game, so you've not missed a lot.
And we're talking about the new Pope. Angus is in Milan, in Italy. Angus, what would you like to say?
Oh, good morning, James.
Hello.
Thank you for taking my call.
You're most welcome.
I'm kind of in the hot seat. I mean, I'm not a Catholic myself, but everybody I know was tuned in on their devices, watching that balcony on CNN yesterday evening, waiting for the face to appear. And it's something that touches everybody.
Well, you mean that? So, I mean, pretty much everyone you know, everyone in Italy would have been following this as a combination between a coronation and a general election or something like that.
I reckon so.
Okay.
And that's a great description, actually, because there's a lot of pomp and ceremony about it, and St. Peter's Square was jam-packed. But my first thought to your question was, I mean, this is the figurehead for 1.4 billion people on our planet. So, you know, not figures to be sniffed at. He is an important guy.
No, but that's where my question comes from. Because is he? Because I am one of those 1.4 billion people, and I don't know how much I would do on his say-so. And of those 1.4 billion people, if we just focus on the American contingent alone, millions of them, or certainly hundreds of thousands of them, would have voted for Donald Trump, who is the polar opposite of everything that this Pope stands for. But by his own account, it's pretty clear. So what does that mean, that he's the leader of 1.4 billion people?
Well, that is a good question. And actually, I think that Donald Trump was one of the fears that he may have cropped up as a surprise, especially after the meme that was put out. That is a good question, and it's tough to say. I think we're at a point where politics and church are sort of overlapping.
Yes.
This guy is one of the people that was the previous popes. He was in his sort of close circle. So I think there should be some sort of continuity, which can only be a good thing in my valuation. But I'm not I'm not deeply religious.
No, but that makes your position more interesting. So because we can see the significance, and in one level, the two-dimensional significance all around you, particularly in a country like Italy, or in a Catholic South American country, it's probably just as acute. And yet, I mean, we know that not that long ago, everything from what you ate on Fridays to whether or not you had sex with your girlfriend would be determined by the Pope. I mean, it would. Even when I was a lad, the sort of papal pronunciations on things like contraception and abortion were rules that people lived by. I don't think they still do. Certainly not in this country. Do they still do that in Italy? Do we have papal diktats?
Less and less.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Less and less. Depends where you are. And further south you go, there's more of a chance. My personal hope is that we do need figureheads, wherever they come from, who are unifying people and not dividing people.
It's so mad to hear you say that. It's absolutely insane. As an Irish Catholic, or an Irish British Catholic, to hear the Pope being held up as the unifying figure on the world stage. Just over the course of my 53 years on this planet, that is such an extraordinary reversal. And I can't dispute a single syllable of what you've said.
We're talking about a government that is attacking the British people. They're attacking young people by this measure that you've just mentioned. They're attacking pensioners, and they're attacking the disabled. It's a redistributive government.
I don't think not giving already wealthy pensioners 300 quid it should be considered an attack.
Well, I mean, you make that assumption that they are wealthy.
No.
But the point is that there were alternatives, as Barry Gardner said, such as taxing. But the point is that this is an assumption. I know that chap who came on earlier was mentioning that most pensioners are rich. Well, I mean, rich in what sense? I mean, look, we've had a huge increase in, and I'm not a pensioner, so although my mother is one, we've had a huge increase in energy bills. We've had energy bills going up twice in 1 year.
Oh, God, and the rest, yeah.
Right. So, at the same time as energy bills going up significantly, hugely, in my view, because of them, as you're probably aware, because of the mismanagement of our relationship with Russia. But the point is that the net effect is you've got people who are on, let's say, average incomes at best in many cases, having to pay higher bills across the board in terms of water bills, in terms
I get it. But Malcolm, just for a second.
Yeah.
That payment, that winter fuel payment, is coming from the taxed income of people possibly on a lot less than the pensioner who has got some private wealth pots, private pension pots, who's got the state pension coming in as well. And that money is going to subsidise the costs of heating their private dwelling. Why?
Why necessarily? What makes you assume that it's a private dwelling? There are plenty of pensioners who live in council houses.
Yes, exactly. But Malcolm, the point is, this money goes to everybody, whoever they are, above the pensionable age. My point is, it shouldn't go to already wealthy people to subsidise the cost of heating their private dwelling. That's ridiculous.
Well, that's your view. I mean, the point is that do you want pensioners to snuff it due to...
no, Malcolm, no. I want the money... No. This is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous straw man argument. It's not to say that you're going to take it away from from pensioners who can't afford to put the heating on. In fact, far from it. You could, if you were to do this properly, I don't think the government has done it properly, but I agree with the principle of it, you could give more of that money to the pensioners who need it rather than giving the equal amount to wealthy ones.
Well, okay, but that isn't what they've actually done.
No, I know. That's why they've done it wrong.
And also, they are having a go. They've claimed they're going to be attacking the disabled through tightening up the attack on the personal independence payment. So, basically what we're talking about is a redistributive government.
All right. Malcolm, thank you.